حي على الفلاح.
Centuries passed after the death of Sulaiman alayhi salam, and the Muslim kingdom rose and fell. The temple of Sulaiman alayhi salam disappeared over the generations, and in its vicinity, the modern-day Bayt al-Maqdis was erected. The final group of prophets and messengers descended from Ishaq alayhi salam. Zechariah, Yahya, and Isa alayhi salam are interlinked, both by blood relationship and by the proximity in time and location. The Prophet Zechariah alayhi salam had a long life story. He continued to urge his followers to submit to Allah and recognize Him as the only one who is their Lord and Creator during all of these years. But the crowds continued straying from the correct course. The Israelites would engage in a variety of bad activities during Zechariah's reign. Zechariah, however, never felt discouraged in his work. He persisted in his endeavors, and Allah appreciated his perseverance, so much so that he immediately complied with his wish for a child. True to Allah's promise, his wife soon delivered a son, and he was named Yahya alayhi salam. He was destined to be honorable, chaste, and a prophet from among the righteous. Allah says, "Truly, Allah chose Adam and Nuh and the descendants of Ibrahim and of Imran above all mankind, a people alike and the seed of one another. Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing." During this time, Bani Isra'il had reverted to their characteristics of stirring mischief amongst each other. And more seriously, they also started initiating blasphemy against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They claimed that Allah was stingy and that Allah withheld from them. These claims are the direct opposite of Allah's attributes of generosity. After all that Allah had given to them throughout the generations, this was how they displayed their thanks and gratitude towards Allah. These constant accusations provoked the anger of Allah upon them. Such was their immense arrogance that they claimed to know more than Allah. But there is nothing new in this pattern of behavior. This is why, generation after generation, prophets and messengers were sent to Bani Isra'il to lead them to the right path. But within time, they would deviate until yet another prophet was sent down to their community to guide them afresh. Yet repeatedly, Bani Isra'il disobeyed from the smallest things to the largest issues, continuously rejecting the messages, signs, and commands of Allah. In the last era of the prophets descended from Ishaq alayhi salam, their behavior worsened, and they even resorted to murdering the messengers and prophets. During this time, the Ptolemaic dynasty ruled Damascus and Jerusalem. They respected Masjid al-Aqsa and were tolerant towards the Israelites. The upper members of the dynasty would spend most of their time in houses of worship. They would pray inside the Bayt al-Maqdis day and night. At the time, Israelites had no prophets, so they prayed to Allah to give them one. Eventually, Almighty chose Zechariah alayhi salam for the task. There were around 400 freed servants at the temple, devoted to worship. If one of them sought nearness to Allah and his wife happened to fall pregnant, he would say, "O Allah, if I have a son, I will dedicate him for you to the Bayt al-Maqdis." In this way, the male children were dedicated to the temple. It was a tradition that stretched back to the time of Musa alayhi salam. During this time, there lived amongst Bani Isra'il a man by the name of Imran. He was so renowned for his piety that his was considered to be one of the best of the families of all time. He was not a prophet or messenger, but his household was so noble and elevated in Allah's kingdom that there is even an entire chapter in the Quran named after it, which is Al-Imran. Imran's wife was Hannah. She was known to be a very pious woman who had no child of her own despite reaching old age. She never lost hope in Allah and patiently remained firm in faith and worship. On a particular day, Hannah watched in awe as a bird fed and took care of its chicks, and this motivated her to further intensify her dua, trusting that Allah, the All-Powerful, would grant her a child of her own even at old age. Following a long period of infertility and numerous pleas for a child, Allah finally granted her prayers at an advanced stage in her life. Overwhelmed by feelings of excitement and gratitude, Hannah decided to dedicate the child in her womb to the service and love of Allah, hoping that Allah would grant her a male child so that he can serve in Masjid al-Aqsa. They didn't allow women to take this job. It was only for men, and they would live their entire life in the masjid and serve in the masjid, free from all worldly work. So in order to concretize her dedication, Hannah believed that her baby had to be a boy. But how great was her surprise when she delivered her baby and found out it was a girl. How could a girl fulfill this role, which was reserved only for honorable men? How could she navigate a space which was the exclusive privilege of the male gender? She was sad and disappointed. But when she gave birth, she said, "My Lord, I have given birth to a girl." Deep inside her, she wanted to trust in Allah that in spite of having a female child, her wish for her child to be dedicated to the service of Allah could still materialize. So she asks Allah to protect and preserve her child. "I name her Maryam, and I commend her and her offspring to your protection." In the language of the time, the name Maryam signified the one devoted to Allah. In the Quran, in response to Maryam's complaint, the verse, "Allah knew best what she had given birth to. The male is not like the female," was an affirmation that the daughter which he had given her was better than the boy that she had anticipated, because the female that Allah had given her was the best of the women of the world. Zechariah was the prophet of that time. He was the husband of Hannah's sister, whose name was Ashia. The prophet Zechariah kept the torch of Mosaic law burning. He used to pray devotionally and preach zealously. He was a carpenter. He led a simple life, and like majority of his brothers in prophethood, was of limited financial means. His wife and he were the symbols of piety and righteousness. Most of his kinsmen lacked in spirit of true faith. As they were seduced, they were inclined to doing evil deeds. They were going out of the right path. The prophet Zechariah was much anxious about the state of affairs. He had no offspring, and there was no suitable person to hold the office of the masjid after his death. Shortly after Hannah had given birth to Maryam alayhi salam, or in some accounts, before she was born, her father, Imran, passed away. This sparked off a dispute within Bani Isra'il on her guardianship. Zechariah alayhi salam should have been the obvious choice. He was her uncle by marriage, and moreover, was a prophet whose moral character and piety were beyond question. No one else had his merit of character. But true to their argumentative nature, Bani Isra'il disputed this choice, for they wanted the prestige of raising Imran's daughter. Zechariah alayhi salam kept silent and maintained his good manner. The people eventually agreed that they should cast lots to decide the matter. All the candidates wrote down their names on pens or wooden writing instruments and put them in a container. A child was sent to pick one of the pens at random. The pen that was selected bore Zechariah's name. Dissatisfied at the outcome, some of them asked for the cast to be repeated. This time, the claimants put all their pens in the river. The pen that would swim against the current would win the guardianship. Again, it was the pen of Zechariah that won. Still stubborn and quarrelsome, they demanded a third round. This time, they decided that whichever pen swam with the current would win the cast. Yet again, it was only Zechariah's pen that differed from the rest, swimming with the current, while the other pens drifted upstream. Observe the power of Allah. People may plot and plan, but what is written will take place. And Allah says, "And you were not with them when they cast their pens, as to which of them should be responsible for Maryam, nor were you with them when they disputed. Thus, Bani Isra'il had no choice but to acknowledge that Zechariah alayhi salam was the undisputed champion and was entitled to assume the guardianship of Maryam alayhi salam. Maryam grew up as a righteous woman. From her childhood, she was in a state of prayer, positioned in seclusion away from the people in an enclosure within Bayt al-Maqdis, especially built for her. In that place, she used to worship Allah in solitude and looked after the mosque with whatever was her responsibility. She would perform her acts of worship day and night to such an extent that she was used as an example among the children of Israel. Allah bestowed upon her special favors and miracles. Every time Zechariah, as her guardian, checked on her, he always found her surrounded by an abundance of food. This was not the food that he brought for her. So how did it find its way into her private sanctuary? More strangely, the fruits did not belong to the climate and were out of season but still fresh. He asked her where it was from. She said, "It is from Allah. Indeed, Allah provides for whom He wills without account." This noble girl had opened her eyes to a startling idea. Could he not ask his Lord to bless him with a child in his old age? Even if his wife was past childbearing age, nothing was impossible for his gracious Lord. Zechariah woke up at night and called his Lord secretly so that no one around him could hear. He said, "O my Lord, indeed my bones have grown feeble and gray hair has spread on my head, but I have never been disappointed in my prayer to you, my Lord, and verily I fear my relatives after me, since my wife is barren. So give me from yourself an heir who shall inherit me and inherit also the prosperity of Yaqub, and make him, my Lord, one with whom you are well pleased." Before long, Allah responded to his prayer, confirming that his wife's barrenness had been cured and that they were to have a son who would also become a prophet. Moreover, this son had the honor of being named by Allah Himself with a name that had never existed in mankind's history. So we answered his call, and we bestowed upon him Yahya, John. So the angels called him while he was standing in prayer in the chamber. Indeed, Allah gives you good tidings of Yahya, confirming a word from Allah, meaning the word of Isa alayhi salam later on, and who will be honorable, abstaining from women, and a prophet from among the righteous. When Allah gave Prophet Zechariah the glad tidings of a son, he could not believe that he will have a child at that age and in such a condition. That is why he said in astonishment, "O my Lord, how will I have a son when my wife is barren and I have reached the extreme old age?" It is said that Zechariah was 77 years old at that time. The angel said to him, "So will it be. Your Lord says, that is easy for me. Certainly, I have created you before when you were nothing." What he meant was that such thing is easy for Allah. He created you when you did not even exist. So why can't He create something out of you, even if you are old? Zechariah said, "My Lord, make for me a sign." He said, "Your sign is that you will not be able to speak to the people for 3 days except by gesture. And remember your Lord much and exalt Him with praise in the evening and the morning." The Prophet Zechariah alayhi salam had a long life story. He continued to urge his followers to submit to Allah and recognize Him as the only one who is their Lord and Creator during all of these years. But the crowds continued straying from the correct course. The Israelites would engage in a variety of bad activities during Zechariah's reign. Zechariah, however, never felt discouraged in his work. He persisted in his endeavors, and Allah appreciated his perseverance, so much so that he immediately complied with his wish for a child. True to Allah's promise, his wife soon delivered a son, and he was named Yahya alayhi salam. He was destined to be honorable, chaste, and a prophet from among the righteous. The prophet Zechariah felt satisfied as his son grew up and became a symbol of piety. He was graced with wisdom, obedience, and asceticism. Zechariah continued preaching the religion of Allah even in old age.